Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the DGS Presents YouTube channel. Tonight, we're going to go way back in time, back to around 1980, and look at Chaosium's Thieves World box set. Now, this was based off the anthology that came out by Lynn Asprin and Lynn Abbey back in 1980, which was a collection of short stories all dealing with the Thieves World in this city called Sanctuary. Abby stated that this area of Sanctuary and Thieves World was envisioned as a late medieval town with similarities to like the Shambles in York, England, and it was described by Abby as a place where we had drugs, magicians, vices, brothels, dives, haunts, curses, and feuds. Sanctuary wasn't a provincial backwater. It wasn't even the imperial armpit. It was the black hole of not Calcutta. And with me tonight to talk about this is St. Cuthbert of the Cudgel. And how are you tonight?
What's up, Colin? Absolutely doing well. Feeling good. Thank you.
Yeah, so you actually have this box set. I do not. I just have the PDFs. And so what we're going to do is let's take a look, because this is old school fun. Let's do a little unboxing and take a look at this Thieves World set before we talk about it to see what's inside.
So this is Chaosium's Thieves World box set, and it's titled Robert L. Asprin's Thieves World, a complete Sanctuary adventure pack. And if you'll notice up at the top here, it's for like 9 different role-playing systems: AD&D, Adventures in Fantasy, Chivalry and Sorcery, Dragon Quest, D&D, that'd be basic D&D, The Fantasy Trip, I don't even know what that is, Rune Quest, Traveler, and Tunnels and Trolls. So inside this box set, there's stats and rules basically to run this setting in all of those game systems, which is pretty awesome. And that was kind of common from back really early in the day. And if you notice on the top of the box here, it says all these authors, like Dave Arneson, there's Steve Perrin, there's Greg Stafford, there's Lynn Willis, there's the creators of Call of Cthulhu and Pendragon and everything else. But let's see what's actually inside the box. So if we look here, and the very first thing we see is what's in the box, and it says the adventure pack contains the player's guide to Sanctuary, the game master's guide to Sanctuary, and then we have personalities of Sanctuary, and then 3 loose maps. So let's go ahead and take a look at these individually. So here we have the player's guide to Sanctuary for Thieves World, and that's obviously for the players to look at, and it's got it has maps and stuff inside, and a little bit of background of the city, background of the setting and the stories and everything. So that's kind of the first thing that the players will look at, which is pretty neat. It's some kind of background for the characters. And then we have our Game Master's Guide to Sanctuary. And this, of course, is a more formal presentation of the rules. And if we take a look in there, there's a number of things in here about like the different sections of the city and the different districts, and how the government works, and who rules the city, the special area encounters, including the maze and the underworld and all that good stuff. Then we have, this is kind of my favorite part, is the personalities of Sanctuary. Notice all the names there of all the different people that were involved with this. And if you look here, like for instance, it says Chivalry and Sorcery. So each personality has different stats for different game systems. So you can play this with Chivalry and Sorcery, with Tunnels and Trolls, with basic D&D, with AD&D, all sorts of stuff in here to make it super flexible. And then finally, we have the actual maps. There's these loose maps on the bottom of the box. And these are pretty cool. Kind of hard to illustrate here because they're pretty big, but it's totally old school, black and white, grayscale maps. You have the actual city. And then you have the maze underground, which is underneath the city. And I think there's also like some dungeons or something under there. Oh yeah, there's the maze underground, which is some dungeons under there where you can adventure in as well. So this is kind of fun. And then I think, oh yeah, at the bottom of the box, we also had our Chaosium catalog. And again, this is from 1981, this set. So this is really old. And this is when Tunnels and Trolls was in its heydays. We have Panzer Pranks there. And some really old games that like nobody even remembers, like Demon Magic, Raiders and Traders, and all that stuff. Yep. And there's some more stuff for Thieves World, and then there was also the Thieves World companion that came out a few years later, and from Chaosium. So we have this here, which actually had more characters, and I think it had some deities in here. Yeah, with the gods of the Ilsigi and the outsider gods. So it gives us some kind of like pantheons and things to work with, and some more heroes and personalities. So that is the Thieves World box set, which we will be discussing.
All right, so I apologize. It was a little bit shaded there and a little tough to read, but you get the general idea of what's actually in that box. And I earlier I said it was 1980. I guess that box was actually from 1981 that came out. The original book, the anthology for Thieves World, came out, I think, in '79. The collection of short stories. So it was pretty soon afterwards they came out with that book.
Yeah, this was actually called the Thieves World Adventure Pack, and it was copyrighted in 1981 by Chaosium Incorporated. Dude, that is just amazing.
Yeah, so a little bit of background about the city of Sanctuary. Let's pull up the map here. So there it is, and it's a little tough to see here, but this is the entire map as it appears inside the box set. And so Sanctuary was originally built, according to the mythology around this box set, about 175 years ago by the runaway slaves of the Ilsig kingdom. But it was conquered 152 years ago by the Ilsig fleet and had a prosperous career as part of the Ilsig kingdom until it was conquered by the Rankin Empire about 60 years ago. Sanctuary survives by importing some grain by the sea and also depends on the rich fishing banks which lie to the south. The fields surrounding the city are all possessions of some of the Rankin nobility and are worked by slaves and indentured serfs. Sanctuary is about a half a mile long on the north-south axis, and it's about 2/3 of a mile wide on the east-west. So that is the city of Sanctuary.
That map is awesome. You know what that map rises to?
Mm-hmm.
It rises to the level of the city-state of the Invincible Overlord by Judges Guild. And yes. It rises to the Free City of Greyhawk by TSR. Dude, those three maps side by side, any campaign, they can mix and match.
Oh yeah,
find a place. Just got to find a place south for this one.
Oh yeah, and I mean, obviously, you put us through the city state, so I do remember that. That was a lot of fun, and just as I said earlier, that great description of Sanctuary, it wasn't even the Imperial armpit; it was the black hole of not Calcutta. So right. This place is like dangerous and crazy, and in those maps we looked at, which we'll talk about a little bit later, there's like the maze, and then there's the maze underground. So I think I inadvertently said that the maze is underneath the cities. Actually, there's an underground to the maze, and the maze is a separate area of this like, very densely populated, criminal infested part of the city.
Colin, it's actually, see the map and see dead center. See that open white box kind of in the center of all the little buildings?
Mm-hmm.
That's the maze.
Okay, that is the maze.
And then the maze underground is below. Yeah, the maze is, yeah.
That's right. Awesome. And then in the city, so periodically, now again, this is evolving thing. So over the years, different people ruled over this city with the Ilsig and the Rankin and everything else. There was a governor at one point. Now there's this like prince, right, brother of the emperor,
Kitty cat.
right, who rules over the thing. And if we go here and look at the personalities of Sanctuary, this is from the book, and it says everybody knows them, right? So if you ask anybody in the street in Sanctuary, they're going to know really who these people are. So we have that first guy, and boy, how do we pronounce his name? It's Prince Catechethus. Catechethus. Yeah, and it says the prince is the brother to the emperor of Ranka, and Catechethus has the decency to maintain only a small band of professional soldiers called the Hellhounds. And for those of you that have read the Thieves World books, you're going to know all about the Hellhounds because they always make an appearance, right, as these dangerous, menacing, kind of Praetorian guard who helps rule over the city. We also have here Jubal. Jubal is the ex-gladiator who spent his lifetime taking revenge on the world, and he's king of the underworld.
He runs the Assassin's Guild.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and he has many people in his private army of sellswords. These mercenaries are called hawk masks because they have the characteristic masks they wear to hide their identity when on missions from Jubal. There's that picture in the book of that guy with the hawk mask on.
Yep. Cool picture. Absolutely.
It is totally old school. And then we have Molin Torchholder. He's the high priest of Savankala and the rest of the Rankin Triad. And his mission is to build stately temples to the gods inside the city. And then we have Gordonesh. He's the archpriest of Is, I guess it says, or Lis, a crotchety old man who spends his time in the senile contemplations of his religion's fall. Smart money is on his assistant Mikin to replace him soon. And last two, we have Honnold. He's the master of the palace gate since before the Rankin takeover. And then we have Tempest, a living legend with extraordinary and frightening powers. His reputation is wide, and when people meet him, they realize whatever tales they heard had underestimated him. So that is Tempest. So these are just the people that everybody knows, right? These are like,
right. There's a whole book on them. Yeah.
There's many more people, right? In the actual box set that you can encounter at any given time. So an example of how this is put together, we see here, for instance, Zalbar. Here we have the captain of the Hellhounds, right?
Look at those stats. What does that remind you of?
As AD&D stats.
100%.
Yeah. So these are the AD&D stats for Zalbar. He's captain of the Hellhounds, right? Strong, obviously, 1830 strength. His dex is 17. Constitution of 18. I mean, this guy's basically Conan.
Yeah, but look at that. He's only an 8th level fighter. That tells you that you as a player character, right? You're like 1st level. You should enter this, and then these guys should advance. But yeah, look, this is taken from remember, this is transferable to 9 different game systems.
I know, it's amazing. And as an illustration of that, we can go over here. Chivalry and sorcery stats, right, for Zalbar. So these are and I have never played this game. Never. So I can't comment on it too much. Despite being the Dead Games Society guy, this is one of the very few games I have not actually played. There was also the fantasy trip, which I mentioned in the video, and I said I didn't even know what that was. I had to look that up, and I think that was Dave Arneson's pet project in the late 70s as a competing product to D&D, and it went totally nowhere. It was it came and went very quickly.
And it's called the Fantasy Trip? Yeah.
It's called the Fantasy Trip.
I can see why.
Yeah, it was a short trip indeed. But one thing we mentioned is different areas of the city are fun to explore as adventurers. And when you go into those areas as a DM, if you use the box set, you have these encounter tables. And I apologize, a little cut off here, but for instance, this is the bazaar. So if the player characters enter the bazaar, you can roll this D100 rules to see what happens inside the bazaar, right? A fight might break out. There might be a theft or an assassination, or who knows, some sort of political intrigue. I think this is really fun. And if you enter, for instance, the maze, you're going to get different encounter types that might be a little more dangerous that you can roll against. So they have these tables inside the basically the DM's book for this. Yeah, the Game Master. Is it the Game Master's Guide, right? For Sanctuary.
Yeah. What's nice is the authors, and my goodness, right, Colin? There's a ton of them. These names are just amazing. So can I go off on a tangent for a moment?
Yeah, no, good. Yeah.
Dude, like Lynn Abbey, right? So Lynn Abbey joined Robert Asprin writing the Thieves World books. It's a 12-book, what do you call it when you have like 12 novels?
Series or whatever.
Yeah, series. So you got Lynn Abbey, who's she's book 4 is when she shows up. So she writes 8 books related to this game system in a fantasy novel. It's amazing. She does a great job. Then the next name on the title, Poole Anderson, 3 Hearts and 3 Lions. A variety of other audiobooks. Poole Anderson is just beyond. He was beyond everyone. And I think he was preceded Gygax, if I'm not mistaken. You got Robert Lynn Asprin, who wrote the game system and the novels. It's amazing. Then you just go down this list. I don't know some of these names, but Steve Perrin. I think, Colin, you and I met at GaryCon 3. And I think I met Steve Perrin. It was either 3 or 4. I remember spending some time talking to him in the game room. But Steve Perrin, he passed, unfortunately. He's not with us anymore. Greg Stafford, you know that name, Colin.
Oh, yeah.
You got Lynn Willis. You got Dave Arneson. I mean, the one name you don't see on here is one that I've already mentioned. But holy cow, Steve Marsh. He's still with us. Steve Perrin mentioned a second time.
And Lawrence Schick.
Yeah,
Lawrence Schick.
And then Ken St. Andre. I've heard that name as well, but just amazing list of names of contributors to this game system that is transferable to 9 different game systems.
I know. And these are like, that's like a roster or a who's who of the really early, RPG creators from back in like primordial days, right? These are the guys that we're going way back. And this is people that really created the hobby.
What was this? 1981 or 19? Yes, 1981 by Chaosium. I'm in 8th grade, and this is what I have. And look at these people that are all contributing. And they were those people in the gaming industry that were just killing it. Good for them.
Yeah. And so inside the city of Sanctuary, you may encounter different types of people, different races and cultures and stuff. Some of the common ones are the Ilsig, which are the common humans of the city. Those are just like your standard people in Sanctuary. But there's also the Raga, who are desert people in robes. And then you have the mountain tribes. So you have these like barbarians in the city. They're kind of rare. You don't see too many of them, but people come down from the mountains and they appear in the city, and they're considered barbarians by the Ilsig.
Well, this is a human-centric game. That's one thing I want the viewers to understand is this game system differs from the D&D system. As D&D, in my opinion, after playing it for like, I don't know, 127 years, I think is a monster-centric game, even though some would argue that I guess Gygax was making it a human-centric game. This is a human-centric game. The monsters, there's only like 3 monsters listed in this whole book. Spiders, crabs, and then the cicatars that Jamie the Red fights through the wall tapestry in the great church of, I think we're going to have to get that answer. But either way, that's where Jamie the Red was born. When I read that book and he was introduced and he fought the cicatars, I started using him as a player character. What was that, like 25 years ago? Almost.
Long time ago, yeah.
Long time ago.
And then we have the Sedanzo. They're like gypsies. Kind of like gypsies, or like Vistani or something. And they're in a matriarchal society. There's a lengthy description of how their society works, which is kind of cool. So that gives you an idea of how to play them as a DM. There are obvious powers in the city. These include the governor or the prince, right, who controls the local government. Like I said before, Gordonesh is the head of the Ilsig Temple, and he who speaks for the oppressed Ilsig. Jubal, who is the unannounced king of the underworld, and then Myrtis, queen of the street of red lanterns. which brings us to other areas of the city. Let's see, if I go down here, it says, yeah, the Street of the Red Lantern. So what is that, Greg? What are you looking for when you go to the Street of the
Basically,
Red
they're
Lantern?
called brothels. Can we say that on YouTube? I don't know. Am I going to get us canceled? They're called
It says
brothels.
it in the book.
Well, it's in the book. That's true. So I guess we can't get canceled. If Michael was with us, we definitely have an answer.
Yeah. So areas of the city include the maze, which we talked about, and that is described as only those who seek death or are selling it enter the maze. So that's like assassins and thieves. There's the bazaar, which we spoke about, the street, the Red Lantern, and then there's the downwind, which is this just horrible kind of like slum, something you see in like outskirts of Calcutta, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and then I thought this was cool. You have the sewer. And there's a cool map for the sewers just underneath. And, for those of us that played all those games like Baldur's Gate and everything back in the day, those RPG games for computers, there's always a sewer system under the city where you can go down there and encounter monsters and assassins and who knows what else.
Do you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the Judges Guild under the City of the Invincible Overlord, the sewer systems and the tunnels, and oh, dude, there's adventures and everything. Yeah, this is so you could fit this in if you're DM in any D&D game, AD&D, you name it, you could fit Thieves World in. And there are already modifications within this box set, the Adventures Pack and the guides, but I would say you could even start here. This would be a starting point, and then you branch out. Then you start fighting monsters and things like that are outside the city.
Yeah, and this is one great thing about this. I think is unlike more modern settings that we've seen with kind of city states or towns and this kind of stuff. This is like they don't pull any punches with this setting. This is like a dangerous place. I mean, there's brothels and stuff. This is not some like this is not Disney D&D, guys. This is like old school, dangerous, scary D&D.
Right.
And that's what makes this fun.
Right.
Right.
And for a DM, you are challenged with this box system to stay human centric because your encounters tend to be thieves, urchins, assassins, or I would recommend as a DM, if you're ever going to get the Thieves World Adventure Pack and use this, and we need to plug Chaosium Con coming up soon. I would say as a DM, get the books. Get the 12 book set and read them first, and you will fall in love with it. But yes, why don't you plug Chaosium Con? You're going and it's coming up soon, right?
Yeah, no, I'm going. Yeah, it's like 2 weeks from now. Yeah, it's like not even 2 weeks from now. So I will be there running some Call of Cthulhu. Unfortunately, I'm not running Thieves World. Maybe next time.
But people who are interested in this and see this video and are going to Chaosium Con, they should seek out a DM who's willing to run this. Any DM that's willing to run this, I would say, is like top notch. He's got to be. I would expect a very good game. And if it's not, well, then you know what? They tried to run it, and good for them. Good on them.
Oh, yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, Chaosium Con obviously has a lot of cool stuff. There's Pendragon games. There's the newer Cthulhu. There's some of the other Chaosium, like RuneQuest, and some of the other products.
Yep.
I mean, I've played just about all of them. I think there's like one Chaosium game, which is relatively recent. I haven't played. I think it's something like the Streets of London or something like that.
I thought it was Fantasy Trip.
That wasn't the fantasy trip. But yeah, Chaosium Con is a lot of fun. So I look forward to running some games there. I got my Nancy Drew Cthulhu. I got my Chernobyl Cthulhu. That's what I'm going to be running there.
Right.
But the last thing I'll say about this is another cool thing. I don't have a slide for it, but in the books, there are these, probably my favorite thing in the whole box set is once you go into a certain area, let's say you go into the maze or you go into the bazaar or you go into the downwind or whatever, there are tables in there that you can roll against, which will tell you what an individual building contains, because there's like hundreds of buildings. So it might be a baker, it might be, yeah, there you go. So there's like the west side, right? And you see all those buildings, and you can roll against the percentile table to see what the players encounter, right? And it might be a blacksmith, might be a brothel, who knows what it's going to be, but
well, what they did,
such a great tool, right?
Right. What they did well with this game system is not only did they take you to the, the Greyhawk-esque, what's the right word? Greyhawk-esque.
Yeah.
Right? You've got a map with buildings and streets and you're like names. You're like, woo, this is fantastic. Right. What they actually did was they went with a encounter table that's based on percentile, so up to 100, and they expanded out just briefly what happens. So there's kind of like Google Maps, right? They're dialing back one notch so you can see a little bit more of the city. And then they dial back another notch and they break out certain individual sections and buildings with definition and maps. And then they go into even further, like this one we just showed, West Side, even further definition should someone venture into that building. They did such a nice job with this game system where they take it to granular level, dial back one, give you expanded encounter tables beyond what the DMG in first edition did, right? Which is a great random encounter table, but it's just a monster name. This is explanation. And then they go even further. So you're right. 100%.
It's the ultimate sandbox.
It is.
It really is.
They did a great, and well, of course they did a great job. Lynn Abbey, Poole Anderson, Robert Aspirin, the list goes on. These were the true contributors at that point. They were king and queen of the gaming industry at that point. And they partnered with, because they listed in the books, they were partnering with TSR. Everybody in 81 was looking, going, holy crap, we can make money off gaming. And they were just partnering up. TSR gave the rights to Lynn Aspirin to write this book. And it's amazing. They did a great job. I'm sorry, I ramble.
No, it's good. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, so that is Thieves World. It's just a quick review. We just want to take a look at it, unbox it, see what's in there. Give our thumbs up to it as 100%. Really one of the best old school supplements you can buy. I mean, it's dangerous, it's mean, it's human centric. One thing I'll say is that in my games, unless it's some really, really weird city or something that you're in, all of my cities tend to be very human centric.
Right.
I find it ridiculous that you would have like half orcs running around and half ogres. That's just, that doesn't make any sense, right? So it has.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Good.
But it mentions in here orcs. Remember we did the episode on orcs?
Yeah.
And how dumb it was to get rid of them and make them not look mean. It mentions in here D&D's orcs, and I'm like, oh, I thought of Colin.
Yeah, there you go. So now there could be some orcs in the sewers, or maybe under the maze.
Would make sense.
Or maybe on a pirate ship. Yes, that could be the case. But you're not going to have. This is not Planescape where there's all these different like bizarre creatures and stuff like all intermingling in the bazaar. That this is very human centric. It's somewhat realistic.
It's a great game system. If anybody can get their hands on this adventure pack, you'd also want to go out and get the Thieves World Companion Okay, because it builds out and breaks out. This is like your demigods and deities for AD&D, and it has even more than that. And then what I would recommend was, and we'll just say his name is Simon, a friend of ours, gave me these 3, which are reprints of the 3 books. So this is really handy for players. But so those were reprints, and I think it's a great game system. It's a great place to start for any campaign. And you know what, Colin? You could even, when they leave the city, you could introduce orcs. You could introduce.
Oh, sure. On the countryside. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. You could easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
Great. So, okay, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. And yeah, again, if you like this stuff, like and subscribe. And we have a lot more content coming. We're just having fun. And I hope to see some of you at Chaosium Con. And until then, keep gaming and keep having fun.
Nice.